We know that Mass Effect is returning, and courtesy of a teaser trailer we got, we know it's returning to the Milky Way, and that it will be set sometime after the events of Mass Effect 3. And while it's an exciting prospect to see a continuation of the world building from the trilogy, that concept does raise quite a lot of questions, simply due to what happens in the Mass Effect trilogy. So in this video we're going to go down the route of speculation's sake, to see if we can find ways to answer these pressing questions, and even if come the end we're completely off the mark, it'll still be a lovely bit of fun. So what really about the Mass Effect trilogy raises these questions, and the answer is Mass Effect 3 feels like an end, like a once and for all kind of end. Obviously, huge spoiler warning if you haven't played the Mass Effect trilogy. What are you doing? Go and play those games, they're bloody excellent. If you don't want spoilers, you have 10 seconds until Rex finishes his boogie to click off, and if you don't, well I guess you only have yourself to blame. Just look at him go. My guy's got some serious moves. If you've played the Mass Effect trilogy, you understand why Mass Effect 3 has this feeling that it's the end. And that's because you play the entire trilogy building up to an apocalyptic level threat, and come the ending in 3 at the climax of this Reaper war, there are no outcomes that don't have serious consequences for the galaxy. These endings are both very similar and very different, so to begin with, the next Mass Effect set in the Milky Way will have to canonize one of these endings. In the extended cut, there are 4 different endings to Mass Effect 3. Firstly, Refuse, we can get that one out the way straight away. It's a secret ending in which you do nothing and the Reapers win. If that was canon, the next Mass Effect would not be happening. In Synthesis, the solution is organics and synthetics merge, which at the end of Mass Effect 3 gave everyone really creepy green eyes, as well as weird markings in the skin. Likely not canon, as in the trailer we see Liara, who doesn't seem to have glowing green eyes, though we can't necessarily tell, nor does she have green markings on her skin. As for Control, an option in which Shepard decides to control the Reapers like the elusive man wanted to do, it's likely also not canon for a couple of reasons, such as while the mass relays are damaged in this ending, the Reapers help repair them. In the trailer we see one of these damaged mass relays, but it's not being swarmed by giant squid robots trying to repair it, and then furthermore on the ice planet we see Liara walking with a dead Reaper in the distance. It could be an ancient Reaper that died millions of years ago, but that would defeat the point of a trailer's symbolism. Furthermore, if the Control ending was canon, that wouldn't go down especially great, considering a lot of fans have a theory that this ending is an illusion and it's actually Shepard giving in to indoctrination. The obvious answer for the canon ending has to be Destroy. Commander Shepard follows through on their original plan to destroy the Reapers, however along with it destroying all other synthetic life, which would explain the dead Reaper and the destroyed mass relay in the trailer. But on top of this, this ending is the obvious choice, because if your galactic readiness is high enough, then Commander Shepard, despite their synthetic implants, will survive. And so this ending has served as a little backdoor in case BioWare ever wanted to return to this galaxy in the future, which they are doing. The Destroy ending is, I wouldn't say the best ending, but it's definitely the intended one, and so if there was one to make canon, which this next Mass Effect game likely will have to do, this is the one I'd put money on. But even off the back of that, there's a few other questions that will need answering. The big broad one being, where do we actually go from here? The Reaper threat has been dealt with, it's not like you can raise the stakes any higher. At least not without it being fundamentally absurd. But before we get to that, we need to spare a moment for the state the galaxy is left in. In the Destroy ending, which I presume will be made canon, the mass relays are damaged, which I'm sure will inhibit long-distance space travel in the Mass Effect universe for a little bit. And my theory in response to this is that the galaxy finds alternative means for long-distance space travel. After all, the mass relays were built, which implies that somebody traveled across the galaxy to build them. And as it turns out, they were constructed by the Reapers as something of a bait to predict the paths on which spacefaring races would travel and establish colonies, making them easier to find. And since we see a damaged mass relay in the trailer, I can only assume that mass relays may not be the only means to quickly travel from one point in the galaxy to another across it. So maybe that technology will come into play, that or the races of the Milky Way are slowly but surely rebuilding. And now considering the galaxy is littered with dead Reaper tech, I think it's fair to say that reverse engineering said Reaper tech to fix the mass relays is a concept that's on the narrative table. That being said, I also believe that this game will be set well into the future after the events of Mass Effect 3, like a few centuries. Liara's in the trailer, but Asari can live for up to 1,000 years. This way they can rely not too heavily on having to make decisions that we can make in the Mass Effect trilogy canon. Maybe they can't avoid the big ending decision, but this way would definitely keep our investment into our decisions that we make in the Mass Effect trilogy feeling important to us as the player. And on top of that, it may take the major sting out of the effect of the mass relays being damaged and hindering long distance space travel, giving us a new era of the Milky Way to explore, but also providing a buffer period in lore, which will make the vast majority of decisions over the course of the trilogy less presently important so they still fit in our heads, and along with it enough time for the races of the galaxy to come up with an alternative means for long distance spaceflight, or to get cracking on repairing some of the mass relays so that we're not stuck to one corner of the Milky Way galaxy. But it's important that some of the effects off the back of the ending of Mass Effect 3 are still felt and have some importance to the story, otherwise that ending will carry less weight and that's not what we want. Now, to go back to the big question, where do we go from here with regards to the threat? The option of raising the stakes again would come across as absurd, because if the galaxy had a bigger threat than the Reapers, why would they show up now, and why didn't they show up and deal with the Reapers? Furthermore, that would feel like a rehash of the Mass Effect trilogy, and then this game would not feel unique at all. So realistically, the answer for the next Mass Effect isn't to raise the stakes, but rather to present something different entirely. They could make the game about the galaxy rebuilding, but I feel like a rebuild narrative or an explore and establish colony narrative is just too easily open to becoming a fetch quest fuckfest. We definitely saw that in Mass Effect Andromeda. It got a little tiresome, and to me this is the kind of concept that you go all in on and execute right, or you just don't bother at all, because you want to do cool shit when you play a game, not run errands for people. How different is that to real life with you nipping down the co-op to get your nan a slice of bread and a bloody bottle of milk? Don't get me wrong, I feel like there needs to be an aspect of rebuilding post-Reaper War, because otherwise we won't fully feel the effects of that if this universe is going to continue, but it can't necessarily be a sole focus, maybe a background theme. Really, the return to the Milky Way for Mass Effect is a massive opportunity to build on the amazing world building of the trilogy, and perhaps take it to new places. Maybe there's a new race in the galaxy that we're yet to meet, new stories for us to experience as the player, and also for the characters to be involved in. As for the antagonist, we've already seen the egoless mega monster robots, and while the stakes may not get higher with something a bit more, I want to use the word human, but it's Mass Effect, but you get what I mean. It could still be a brilliant opportunity to explore a new avenue of storytelling for the Mass Effect games, to have something a lot more grounded and contained to pose as the main threat. This franchise has always thrived best on its world building, and I'd imagine that will be no different going forward, provided it's executed correctly. So realistically, as long as it gets that right, it could do whatever the fuck it wants. Another big question that came out when that trailer dropped back at the Game Awards, however many months ago it was now, I suppose is, what's Liara doing on this ice planet, and what's the significance of this specific piece of N7 armor? If it belongs to Shepard, what's it doing here? Is this from when he died the first time at the start of Mass Effect 2? Because it can't be from Earth, can it? Maybe this was just done to show that Mass Effect is returning and getting that excitement up, rather than actually hinting at anything plot related. I don't think Shepard's going to make a return. I feel like that will be too invasive in contradicting a lot of players' decisions. I also don't believe we'll be playing as Shepard, so I'm more inclined to believe that this isn't necessarily intended to make sense in the trailer so much as just to give you an idea that it's Mass Effect before the title card shows. But I guess in a few years' time, after BioWare's done with their Dragon Age game, or whatever it is they're working on, maybe we'll start to find out. It's difficult to see what's next for Mass Effect really, and the only other question that I can think to ask is, what about Andromeda? And I suppose for me, what about it is more or less the answer as well, because it's not something that I ever really cared about. When I played it, I didn't think it was anything significant. To me, it felt like a spin-off game that didn't really work out. And so I wouldn't imagine it holding too much significance going forward, but it would be stupid to completely discount it like that. But if none of that is relevant at all going forward for Mass Effect, I'm not going to feel like this universe is losing or missing out on anything necessarily. However, the truth is likely a lot more complicated than that. I just don't necessarily want to go there, because I'll just be wasting your time with ramblings, as my interest in Andromeda is completely dead. So I suppose what's next for Mass Effect is still anyone's guess. The trailer doesn't give too much away. All we know is we're back in the Milky Way, which is exciting in itself. But there's a lot of questions that any game that picks up after the events of Mass Effect 3, whether it be just after those events or hundreds of years in the future, will need to answer, and hopefully this video has gone over some of those questions and rationalized potential answers that makes it seem a little bit less like the universe is stuck and there's no real way forward, as that is one of my bigger concerns, despite being excited for the fact that Mass Effect isn't over after all. Anyway, that does bring us to the end of this video, so please let me know what you think down in the comments section. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff if you want to. That would be massively appreciated. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, take care and goodbye.